moving on to the changes for this season. For those of you that were on last night's call with Farai, you'd have seen that there's not a great deal of changes, and Farai quickly went over those. And we'll go over them again now, just to make sure that everyone is 100% clear of what those changes are. So one of the small changes, not really effective of probably what we're going to see at grassroots football, but just some clarification on offside. Obviously, we've not got the benefit of thick lines and situations like that with VAR taking place. So, but there's a change in law around where the arm ends, as we would have seen in previous years with regards to handball. That same area now is being used as an area for judging offside as well. So the bottom of the armpit, sleeve area, as we've described, is where the arm ends for the purpose of determining that onside or offside. For us, though, normally going off that human eye, we're not looking at those fine margins. If you can identify where the top of the armpit is offside, then fantastic, but we're not expecting 100% accuracy on all of those decisions where we've got to base it as tight and as small as that. The majority of the law changes this year are within the foul and misconduct section, predominantly on handball, trying to tidy it up and clean it up after a number of changes over the past few years, which has led to some confusion. So the first line really is important and something that we need to have a clear understanding of, because we know when the ball hits someone's arm and there's appeals, as referees, we need to know every contact of the ball to hand or hand to ball, or sorry, just ball to hand is not an offence. Okay, occasionally there's going to be occurrences where it's not outside that shadow, it's normal movement and normal body positioning. So what we've got to try and consider with this now is that player's hand or arm in a position where it is part of that type of body movement. For instance, if they're running, is that arm movement part of their running style and their running movement, and the ball's hit it, in which case there's not a lot they can do about it. If they're standing still and naturally and the arms down by the side, again, is that part of their natural movement in that particular area? In which case, in those two examples there, we wouldn't penalise for a handball offence. Obviously, if they brought their arms out above their shoulders and in an unnatural position, we would still penalise that with handball, as we would have done previously. But we've got to try and consider the natural movements of body movements during a game, which I think is fairly fair and should make it a lot easier for us to understand. As well as other areas, we've got to think about as well the removal of accidental handball in the build up to a goal. So we still can't score directly from a handball offence, but now we've got to consider whether that handball in the build up has led to an imminent impact in that goal scoring opportunity. So it's got to be right up close to that, i.e. it's hit and knocked down and they've knocked it in from there, rather than a 5-6 second build up after the handball offence has taken place. If that handball takes place imminently before the goal is scored, then we would penalise, stop play and award that free kick. If it is that 5-6 second period, then we would let play continue, as it's not in that immediate impact of creating that goal scoring opportunity. And the final real change in regards to the laws of the game this year has been an adaptation or an adjustment based on the recent change that we saw with goal kicks. Okay, teams now are playing from the back a lot shorter, a lot quicker. And there was a situation in Italian football last season at Fiorentina where goalkeeper took a goal kick, short one, to his defender. Defender then flicked it up and headed it back to circumvent law. Obviously, from a free kick or an open play, we would recognise that and penalise that. The wording has been tidied up this year to allow us to penalise that kind of circumvention of law, to stop that from happening. So the goal kick's taken, flicks it up, knocks it back to the keeper to allow the keeper to play out their hands, then that would now be penalised as per law. Last year there was a little bit of a grey area with it, so they've just tidied that area up. What I'll do there is, before I progress with some other areas to consider from areas that we noticed last season, I think is prominent that we cover. Has anyone got any questions or anything that they want to touch upon on those areas that are on the screen now? If you do, either raise your hand, I'll unmute you, or unmute yourself, or pop a question in the chat.
Sam, it says the instigator to be cautioned. Is that the goalkeeper or the player who flicks it up to the goalkeeper?
Very good question. It's almost as if I set you up for that one, isn't it? So the instigator in that area would be the player that flicks the ball up to the keeper to catch it. So the instigator is the guy, the individual that's effectively made that trick happen to get back to the goalkeeper.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
David, with that, yep, you're right. In that circumstance, we would award. That's a very good question, and one I'm just trying to think. We would award an indirect free kick for that offence taking place. So it wouldn't be a goal kick's been taken because an offence has taken place, and we would restart play with an indirect free kick. Jason, hand up from you.
Yeah, Sam, my question was twofold, and you've just answered both of my queries.
Fantastic. See, I like doing that. Perfect. If you come to any other questions as we're going through sort of the rest of the session, just drop it in chat or prepare for or raise your hand at the end of the session. So because there's not a great deal of changes this year, we thought it would be relevant to touch upon areas where we've noticed from discipline submissions or extraordinary reports or emails that have come into the office during the past year or so that we want to try and touch upon to ensure that the processes are happening correctly. So on a regular occurrence last year, we probably got a number of reports come through advising that a manager's behaviour wasn't acceptable and that we should do something about it. Difficulty we had in the office at the time with those situations is because nothing had happened, no action had been taken on the match day, we couldn't do anything. We're not in a position really where we can regularly go back and penalise individuals post-match for behaviour. We've got to remember as match officials in our armoury, we do have the option to caution and dismiss members of the coaching team and technical area staff. So if there's a manager that is acting beyond your tolerance levels, beyond your thresholds, you use the caution codes that you've got for team officials and the dismissal codes as well that you've got to hand to penalise and try and rectify that behaviour beforehand. It's great to know that these situations have happened so that we can recognise and deal with them and offer advice. The difficulty we had without the action being taken on match day is we can't retrospectively take action because the referee is not taking action on the day. So if you're unsure what the caution codes and what you can and can't caution and send off managers for, I'll circulate a link tomorrow in the newsletter that's going to go out later this week to remind you of what those processes are. So take a look at that, but remember to utilise those tools in your pocket that you have when dealing with managers and technical area members of staff. They can all be cautioned and sent off in the same way that players can. One thing that was slightly frustrating and caused a lot of work, particularly for Colin last year in the discipline team, was the number of late reports. This did unfortunately lead to a member of our referee workforce being charged, which is the absolute last case scenario that we want to get to. It is not something that the discipline team want to do on a regular basis, because that's not what we're about. We want to support you, we want to help you, we want to ensure that these stages don't happen. But ultimately, when a threshold is hit, they're left with no choice. A reminder that if discipline is there, it must be submitted 48 hours after the match. Okay, so please remember to submit those details. If there's a problem, if you can't get into it the whole game, if there's a delay in submitting, don't be afraid to drop in an email to me and we can submit it manually from our side. As long as the information is submitted within that 48-hour deadline, then that's not a problem. All we say is if you're not going to make that, just let us know the reasons why, and we'll try and come to a conclusion with you to satisfy the needs, because the clubs start chasing after that Tuesday, Wednesday, normally for a Saturday, as to why their caution, particularly sendings off, haven't been received. So make sure that those are being submitted. One thing that is going to be introduced this year, more on a method so that we can track and identify and support as much as possible, is a 4-strike policy. And that sounds quite strict, but you'll see from the stages as to how we get to that final stage, and hopefully that should never happen. So if you miss that 48-minute deadline once, you'll get an email and a reminder from myself, from Colin, just to remind you that 48-hour process is there. Please make sure that process is being met, particularly with red card offences, because again that then affects the suspension starting the next Saturday. So that first step will be a reminder of what is required and the reasons why. If you happen to be late again, what'll happen is I'll pick up the phone, give you a call, understand what's going on, what might be causing these delays in getting them to you, whether it's work, whether it's just just forgot, whether there's other situations there that might delay that process and get it to it, so that we can come to an agreement on how we're going to move forward to ensure that everyone is meeting the agreed time frame, and we can stop these chasing notes happening. If that third submission hasn't worked, or that second step hasn't worked, and you're late again for a third time, then the discipline team have said that on the third occasion this year, a warning will be put in place, which will then lead to, after the fourth one, an FA charge. The idea is with this is that we tackle it nice and early doors. We can resolve those issues. We can get them sorted. Like I say, the last thing that the discipline team want to do is charge people for late submission. Obviously, that some of those steps can be skipped. For instance, if you fail to send in a red card and that player then plays into suspension, there might be stronger punishments that come down on that, which hopefully won't be the case. Not trying to scare anyone. I'm just trying to give you an overview of what's going to happen so that we can move forward and stop these situations happening as well. One other thing that became prominent, particularly in this season, we had a number of unfortunate incidences around discriminatory language and discriminatory abuse taking place, and the officials involved in those games were unfamiliar with the processes and the guidelines that are put in place and have been there for 2 or 3 years. So there is guidance on our website. I'm going to quickly run through it now, but the guidance there on the website is ready for you to download and view at any point should you need to access on a match day to remind you of what you need to complete. Ultimately, though, if you're in any doubt about anything, whether it's competition rules, whether it's the process for submitting discipline for the first time you've done it in a while, if you can't get onto the whole game, if you're unsure of whether you've managed the situation correctly, reach out to us, give us a call, pick up the phone, have that conversation with us, and we can help and support you to ensure that next time you go out, you're in a much more comfortable position and able to support as best you can. So in terms of that discriminatory abuse and that incidences that have happened, there's three areas that we're going to break it down into. We're going to break it down into discriminatory abuse that you've heard on the field of play, something that you've been notified of whilst still on the field of play, and if there's been an allegation made post-match as well. There's 3 slightly different processes to follow for each of those. So starting off with, if you've heard the abuse whilst on the field of play during the game, obviously the first step, as I'm sure you'll all be aware of, is to dismiss that player under Law 12 immediately. Let's deal with that straight away and bring the tempo back down, so that we can deal with that in a safe environment. Make full notes of what has been said or done, or the acts used, as soon as you possibly can, whether that be during that stoppage, the next stoppage in play, whenever you get an opportunity to, the earliest possible opportunity, make those notes so you've got a full board when you come to letting us know what's happened, because the last thing you want to do is at the end of the game go, oh, was it this that was said, was it that was said, so on and so forth. At least then you've got a full record of exactly what took place. After the match, finalise those notes immediately after the match before leaving the changing room. That just makes sure that as soon as you get back home, you can submit that in the appropriate times. If you're working in a team of 3, i.e. on the Coastal Prem or on a different competition, make sure the whole team have a copy of those notes, so that you're all on the same hymn sheet and you've all got the right information to go when it's requested. Once you're around, immediately get in touch with either myself, with Chris, or with Colin, to advise that something of a discriminatory situation has happened, so that we're aware and we can start that process immediately to identify and investigate that process. As soon as you possibly can, ideally when you get home later that day, submit that extraordinary report via whole game using the notes that you've made and completed after the full-time whistle. So hopefully with that process, it's a fairly straightforward process and one that I'm sure you would probably all be familiar with anyway. Slightly different now in terms of if you've not heard that abuse of you whilst on the field of play, slightly different processes that we need to follow. As soon as that allegation has been made, make those notes again, like we had in the previous section, so just captain said who's reported it, so on and so forth, the time of the incident as well. After the match, this is where it gets a little bit different. Okay, once the allegation has been made and we've finished the game and we're back in the changing rooms, as a referee, if you've got changing room facilities available to you, you should invite the person in that has made the allegation, along with a member of their coaching team, to confirm exactly what was said, by who, when, so on and so forth, so that you've got a full picture of the incident that's taken place ready for submission. If you're in that situation, try and make that changing room as comfortable and appropriate for that environment as possible. I.e., if there's a team of 3, don't be sitting there on your phones or situations like that starting to get changed. It's quite a serious thing that's happened, so let's treat it with that serious nature that needs to be intended with it. After that individual has made the allegation, the next step, which might be a little bit difficult at times, is to invite the person who is the subject of the allegation, i.e. the one that's been allegated against, the one that's allegedly made these comments or actions. Again, inviting a member of their team from the management team, and advise the player of the nature of the offence or the allegation that's been made. If the player does make any comments regarding that, again, make a note of those, so that again when you come to the submission, you've got the full details there. Obviously, that's going to be a rather uncomfortable conversation. It's not an argument of I didn't say that, but he said you did. It's just a case of this is what's happened. We're going to have to report it to the county FA, and then the process will start from there, and then that's when they'll be asked for their views later on. Again, make sure that environment is appropriate, i.e. we're not on our mobile phones or starting to get changed. If, however, you're at a venue where there are no changing room facilities available, don't put yourself in the position when an open field of play where you're dealing with the 2 individuals. Although the second and third points there are ideal, they may not be appropriate if you've not got the appropriate facilities available to you to conduct that in a safer environment for everyone there. If there isn't, skip out step 2 and 3 and just report straight to us, but please do advise us that there wasn't the appropriate facility to conduct step 2 and 3 in a safe environment. And finally, you're going to submit that report straight to us. Again, please pick up the phone and let myself, Colin and Chris know, so that we can get that process started and be aware of that type of report coming in. Finally, with the discriminatory abuse area, if you've been advised of an allegation post-match, so if someone's come to you and said, are you aware that so-and-so said this, the steps are very, very similar. Make a full note of the allegation, again, of what's been said. It should include timings, i.e. so when the manager came in, try and find out the time that the offence occurred or the allegation occurred. Note documentation, in the documentation, who was involved, who came and discussed with you, the individuals that might have been involved in that situation as well, as well as the little pushing point in the changing rooms or wherever. Again, advise us straight away and submit that incident via whole game as soon as possible. In that situation, we wouldn't invite the parties into the changing room. We would just deal with the individuals that came and spoke to us. 9 times out of 10, the individuals going to come and speak to us will probably be the individual that's received that type of abuse against them. And ultimately, with all of these, if for whatever reason you are contacted by local press or media, please don't make any comments regarding the allegations taking place, a negative impact, and possibly the police are conducting as well, following that situation. Like I said, there's quite a lot of information there to sort of digest and consider. The information again will be circulated in the newsletter this week, and it will be on our website from tomorrow as well to give that information. Sure that notes ready to go as and when you need. Hopefully you won't need them. Hopefully there won't be a type of incidences of those behaviour. But it's pointing out the guidance that is to be followed should an incident occur. In those situations, pick up the phone and give us a call. If an allegation has been made by guidance or you can't remember what to follow, give myself, Chris, or Colin a phone call, and we'll be able to get that information. And you follow the processes set out by the FA. That pretty much brings us to the end of tonight's session. A fairly short one, given the lack of changes that have taken place. Just looking at the quick chat now, I've just noticed that David has made a comment. I'm guessing we're looking at about the misconduct of managers. So one area I see in youth football is aggressive coaching and managers not responding to a suggestion to calm down. If they're not responding to you and they're acting in a manner that can be deemed aggressive as such, again, don't be afraid to caution and dismiss them in those areas as well if that behaviour is beyond the expectations. The safeguarding principles that have got to be there as well, and ensuring that the children are ultimately safe. So ensure there's individuals there that can briefly carry on that process and ensure the safety of children. If there's not, then still follow the process of a caution and a red card. The hardest thing there will be that we can't dismiss them from the local facility because they've still got a duty of care to the players. But hopefully they will then quieten down and just focus on what they should be there doing in the first place. If they don't and they continue, then you just add that as an extraordinary report you're submitting as well on the lines of, I sent off this coach or manager for this type of behaviour. Safeguarding in the way afterwards they still continue to do this and this, and then we will speak to the club and the individual in question about that. Has anyone got any other questions about anything that we've covered tonight before I touch on what's coming up, both imminently and in the future? If you have, quick show of hands or drop a question in the chat. No. Perfect. If you do, drop it in there just while we're finishing off. So tomorrow night we're joined by Richard Glyn-Jones, one of the national FA referee managers. Richard has been in charge of developing the new course and mentoring programs, and a lot of you may have seen Richard on the mentoring training that was held at Northstowe just over 2 years ago now. So Richard will be with us delivering a session on getting best at yourself, so looking at ways we can self-analyze our performances to ensure that we progress and improve and learn from game-based scenarios. Friday we're joined by Lee Waters. Lee's a sports psychologist based out of the University of Peterborough and also involved in Peterborough United as well. We'll be delivering a session based on players mentally during fatigue sessions and preparing ourselves fully for the match. Romana, I will come to you shortly. In terms of this season, the season has kicked off. The Thurlow Non-League Adult Football started on Saturday just gone and had games last night. League start next Tuesday and Wednesday. So please ensure close dates submitted via Pitchside as soon as possible. Youth season starts early September. So still a little bit of time. If you're aware that you're going to be unavailable, please do let Pitchside know as soon as possible, as Chris will start to look at those appointments in 2 to 3 weeks. So make sure your availability is as accurate as possible. Again, if you're involved in the Women's National League as well as an assistant referee, the appointments have started to come out. Quite a few of you have picked up games throughout the local region. I think it's fair to say those close dates need to be submitted via MOAS, which you should have information on of how to access on there as well. Again, if you're involved in FA competitions and you're unavailable on a particular Saturday, close it on Pitchside for us, close it on MOAS for the FA. Otherwise, you'll have that awkward phone call to the FA to advise them that you can't complete an FA Cup game or FA Vars game, which we don't want people to have to do. Slight changes this year in the appointment process for adult football. So Chris will be appointing every 2 weeks. You should receive 2 fixtures at any given time. Youth football will still stay weekly and will come out on that Monday prior to the Saturday. If you've not submitted your league allocation form yet, so you've not let us know which leagues you want to officiate on, please complete that as soon as possible. The link is there on the screen now, and I will drop it in the chat. It's important that you let us know that, because without that, we don't know where you want to referee. And if you want to move yourself onto adult football or consider youth football for the first time in a while, or Sunday league football, we won't know unless you tell us. So please complete that as soon as possible so that we've got that information ready to go. We're also, as you know from the newsletter, looking for workforce members, so observers and mentors. If you want to give something back and give up a free Saturday or a Sunday afternoon or a Saturday afternoon, whatever works for you, please do let us know. Again, we've got a number of individuals that are interested, and we'll be looking at running some training sessions on those particular areas in the near future. Link is in the chat again for that one. Is also on the screen. Will also be circulated in the newsletter going out later this week. In terms of CPDs and development, because we want to continue areas like this. If there's a topic that you want us to consider and deliver because there's something you're slightly unsure about, let us know by emailing referees@cambridgeshofa.com. We can plan ahead. We can get that in our calendars, ready for the next sessions that are up and coming. As you can see, there's quite a bit going on this season. So every Wednesday, starting on the 15th of September, or 15th of September, if I can get my words out, and they'll be dropping sessions via Microsoft Teams on this system here, where a link will go out every single week or every other week for you to drop in, ask questions on your games on the weekends, have ideas, have chats with the match officials, and offer that support on a more regular basis in a much more comfortable format. They'll likely start around 7 p.m. most evenings, and can last as long or as little as needed, depending on the interest and the questions asked. If you know you want to get on it, but you can't get on it at a certain time, please do let us know, and we can hold on for you. For those of you that are level 5 to 4 promotion candidates or level 4s, we're going to continue with that select core program that we ran last year, where you'll have that coaching aspect. They'll be running development sessions every last Monday of the month, starting on the 27th of September, running every other month. So September, November, January and March. All of the officials will be on the alternate months. So October, December, February, April and June, if I've got my months correct. Again, the majority of those will likely be via Microsoft Teams. We may get some face-to-face sessions in later in the season as well. For those of you that are young, 16 years old, 17 years old, and looking to transition into adult football for the first time, we've set up a new group for you, where there'll be 2 league coaches that will work with you on a one-to-one basis, with regular catch-ups, drop-in sessions with your coach, as well as 2 group sessions per season as well. Looking at numbers at the moment, we've got a group of about 8 or 9 individuals, which is fantastic. So if you are thinking of moving into adult football, but unsure of the process and the steps, please get in touch. Just a reminder, you need to be 16 years and above to consider that. As well as all of that content where you can jump on sessions and engage. We'll also be releasing some monthly pre-recorded sessions onto our YouTube channel for you to look at. These will range from half an hour sessions up to an hour, from different areas of play. Will be asked to be just if it's appropriate. One of the other things that normally would be sent out in terms of referee registration would be around referees' personal accident insurance. Obviously, with referee registration, the process that's changed with that is no longer an offer that we can put through referee registration. If you are interested in the accident insurance, it covers you whilst you are participating in any affiliated football. So if you serious injury or something of that nature, where it takes you out of work and has a financial impact on your life because you can't earn, you're covered and protected by that. That's only £5 per individual per season. So if that's something you're interested in or want to know more, drop me an email to referees@cambridgeshofa.com, and we can send you out the quota and the guidance on that, so you can look into that a little bit more. Just a reminder, the sessions later this week, I will go to the raised hands as there's a couple up there now. Romana was first. So Romana, do you want to unmute and fire away?
Hi, Sam. I pressed by mistake. Sorry.
No problem. No problem at all. Then we had Jamie Rayner.
Hi, Sam. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Jamie.
Okay, sounds good. Just because I'm moving up to obviously 17, moving up to adults, would it be possible for me to join the progression call thing?
Your name is already penciled down for it, Jamie.
All right, thank you.
We will be in touch with more details. We've got a meeting in 2 weeks' time with the 2 coaches that are going to be involved in that. So we'll be in touch later that week for you.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Within that group as well, we will also consider those individuals that have come off the course as well, and looking to move into potentially adult football as well. So Ben, if that's something you feel would be worthwhile, again, please do let me know, and we can add you into that. Ultimately, though, that brings a close to tonight's session. Hopefully you took something out of it in terms of the laws of the game, whether that's the small changes that have taken place or or notice that there's some areas that you need to refresh your mind on. If anyone wants to hang around for a quick chat afterwards around mentoring, observing, or something else, I'll be hanging around for 5-10 minutes. Feel free to hang on and we can have a quick one-to-one chat if you so wish. If not, I look forward to seeing as many of you as possible tomorrow on our session with Richard. If you've not yet signed up to get the join-in link, bit.ly/rdw-Richard will get you signed up onto that session like you have done tonight. Enjoy the rest of your evening. I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow.